Welcome, everyone. I'm Jeff Roselle, and I'm the Director of Programs here at the Knowles Teacher Initiative. My co-presenter today is Rebecca Bradshaw, who you just heard from. She is our Accounting and Marketing Assistant. Thank you so much for joining us for today's presentation, which will provide an overview of the Knowles Teacher Initiative and our Teaching Fellows program. I will be stopping periodically to answer questions throughout the presentation. So if anyone would like to ask a question as we go, you can use the Q&A box on your screen. Already we've had a few questions there. And Rebecca will relay the question to me during the Q&A portion of the presentation or answer it as a typed response. You can view typed responses by selecting answered questions. The Knowles Teacher Initiative, formerly the Knowles Science Teaching Foundation, was established by Janet H. and C. Harry Knowles in 1999 to increase the number of high-quality high school science and mathematics teachers and ultimately improve math and science education in the United States. At Knowles, we believe that teachers can and should be the primary agents of educational improvement. This belief is woven throughout all aspects of the Foundation's programming, including our Teaching Fellows program, which is what we're going to discuss in detail today. So I'll give you a brief overview of the Knowles Teaching Fellows program and the program benefits. I'll also review our eligibility requirements and the application process. From striving to meet the diverse needs of all students, to navigating the challenging political terrain of school systems, to recognizing the important role that education plays in students' opportunities and outcomes, the Knowles Teacher Initiative understands that teaching is critically important, complex, and an intellectually challenging endeavor. The Knowles Teaching Fellows program is an intensive and cohesive 5-year program that supports early career secondary mathematics and science teachers in their efforts to develop teaching expertise and lead from the classroom. Each year, we award approximately 35 fellowships to new math and science teachers with great disciplinary knowledge who possess leadership potential and are committed to become great teachers. The program has 2 phases. In phase 1, the first 3 years of the program, fellows reflect on and deepen their own mathematics or science knowledge. They develop the specialized forms of content knowledge that are needed for teaching, and they use that knowledge to create profound learning opportunities for students. Fellows learn increasingly sophisticated ways of examining their classroom cultures and instruction, by applying analytical lenses to data that help them see and then increase the learning opportunities being offered to all of their students. While focusing on these areas, fellows are also supported in becoming a community of inquiry that engages with and as critical friends. And this emphasis on inquiry with others serves as the foundation for teachers leading from the classroom. In phase 2, the last 2 years of the program, the focus of that inquiry shifts from a fellow's classroom to the professional community in which the fellow works. Fellows are supported in bringing their school colleagues into this work by making themselves vulnerable and open to others' perspectives. Fellows grapple with their own professional goals and commitments and what it means for them to lead in their context. And fellows learn to understand their school and local community as a system, understand multiple leverage points for change, and experiment with ways to lead those communities toward better outcomes. One crucial thread in our teaching fellowship is the use of cohorts to build connections and community. We build our fellows program on a cohort model that allows fellows to connect with peers who are at roughly the same point in their teaching careers. The group that fellows form in their cohorts allow them to experience small learning communities and experiment with various roles teachers might play in those communities. These small learning groups strengthen the connections between our fellows, but they also model small peer-led teacher communities in ways that help our teachers reimagine their working relationships in their own high schools. But fellows also have multiple opportunities to work with colleagues beyond their own cohort in special interest or regional groups, in groups focused on teaching specific disciplinary skills or concepts, or in groups teaching in similar contexts. In our next section, we'll talk more about the importance of those working relationships. Now I'll turn to benefits. Knowles Teaching Fellows receive a comprehensive array of benefits, which are often missing or lacking in local schools and districts, including financial support, mentoring and coaching, and membership in a nationwide community of peers. The Knowles Teacher Initiative supports fellows financially by offering grants to cover expenses associated with purchasing classroom materials and engaging in professional development. Additionally, fellows are eligible to request funds to develop and execute leadership activities that have an impact beyond their own classroom. Specifically, fellows can access up to $9,000 in support for materials, professional development, and stipends each year. Up to half of that amount can be used on stipends. These amounts reflect financial support offered in past years and this current year, but is subject to board approval on an annual basis. We recognize that our fellows are highly accomplished and often have made sacrifices, both in terms of money spent on teacher preparation and opportunity costs that they incur by choosing a lower paying profession. And these stipends often allow them to reduce debts they may have incurred or reduce the financial burden teachers often bear, both of which are factors that contribute to sustainability in the profession. These stipends could also be used to support fellows financially during the summer months, allowing them to concentrate on reflecting on the past year, preparing for the coming year, and professional development, rather than taking on a part-time job during the summer, as many teachers need to do. To request financial support, our fellows go through a proposal process. So they learn to articulate the relationship between their needs, their goals, implementation strategies, outcomes, evaluation, and budget. This process is fully supported by Knowles staff and is similar in scope and content to other funding sources used by teachers. Our fellows often end up being quite successful in competing for resources and awards from other sources. We also value the expertise and knowledge of skillful teachers, which is why we support our fellows with mentors and coaches. In fact, we recruit staff with significant teaching experience to act as those coaches. Our experienced teaching fellows staff with over 100 years of teaching experience view themselves first and foremost as teachers. Our staff also play a significant role in our fellows' lives as experienced teachers who regularly check in with them, support them to plan and reflect on instruction, talk them through challenging personal dilemmas, and support them through personal challenges. Staff sometimes observe fellows teach, either virtually or in person, and coach them to improvement in a way that fellows direct. In addition to staff, each team supports fellows with 2 or 3 veteran teachers, most of them with over 20 years of experience as both teachers and teacher leaders. These team specialists bring on-the-ground experience and credibility. They attend meetings, they support fellows in their inquiry, and provide counsel as true master teachers. Knowles Fellows are able to tap into a support network of more than 300 teachers who are committed to improving STEM education. From in-person conversations that take place at meetings to virtual conversations that take place on our online community, invaluable support is mere moments away. So I'd like to walk you through what a typical year looks like for a teaching fellow. It begins for all new fellows with an orientation weekend in May. The primary goal of this meeting is to help new fellows learn about the culture and norms of the Knowles community that they're joining. Each new cohort spends 2 days in May at the Knowles office, working with staff and team specialists to explore the processes and power of practitioner inquiry, learning how to be critical friends to each other and colleagues. Fellows are supported to examine how they think about their specific math or science disciplines, how they think about themselves as learners, and how their already impressive disciplinary knowledge may need to be adapted and deepened for the work of teaching. Throughout the meeting, fellows learn about the ways that Knowles supports their development as beginning teachers and potential leaders in the profession. For existing fellows and the rest of the community, the Knowles Summer Conference is the official start to each fellowship year. This 3-day meeting takes place over the last full weekend in July, usually in Philadelphia. Sorry, I'm going to click back. I know I got ahead on slides. It's a distinctive event that brings together all members of the Knowles community, typically about 250 participants, to interact with, learn from, and provide critical feedback to each other within a variety of settings and structures. All 5 cohorts of teaching fellows attend the meeting, along with senior fellows who are engaged in specific activities related to summer conference, as well as staff and other experts in math and science education. The summer conference is divided between opportunities for fellows to work within cohorts and opportunities for them to engage with the wider community. So in the morning, teaching fellows begin the work of the year aligned with the specific phase of the fellowship that they're in. And then in the afternoon, meeting participants attend their choice of sessions that have been proposed, reviewed, designed, and led by fellows, like you might see at another conference. These learning sessions may be structured as an interactive presentation, a workshop, or a collaborative learning group. Fellows who lead these sessions are provided with a coach, a Knowles senior fellow who has participated in our coaching institute and supports session leaders to establish learning goals and evaluate the effectiveness of their session. Fellows also choose a book to read together each summer, and they organize a variety of discussions around that book throughout the meeting. Finally, fellows have opportunities to organize informal discussions over meals and during meeting breaks that allow them to find common ground, organize working groups, and discuss topics that interest them. So there are some good questions coming up. I'm going to take a look at those and capture those before I talk about fall or spring meetings. I will be talking more about eligibility. That's a number of the questions that will be coming up in a bit, and I make sure that people get those questions answered individually. The 2 to 3 teachers, veteran teachers assigned per cohort or for math or science as a whole. Those team specialists, we actually get a mix of math and science teachers who will support that whole cohort. So for example, in phase 1, those 3 years, those 3 cohorts, we've got 4 veteran science teachers who act as specialists. 2 of those are math teachers, 2 of those are science teachers. And so regardless of whether you're a math or a science teacher, you'll have a veteran teacher who attends your cohort meetings and can support you. It turns out that often math teachers have a lot to say about science teaching and vice versa. And so those are not only specific to math and science. They work with all fellows across the cohort in those ways. So I think I've got Annie's question there. I'm going to make sure. Okay, there's a question about the voice being gone, but I think that I'm still hearing myself. Can I get some confirmation from one of our staff?
Yep, you're good on my end. This is Rebecca again.
Great. Thank you very much. So I'll turn to the fall and spring cohort meetings. We'll have time for some more questions as well. So in addition to summer conference, we bring all members of a cohort together twice a year to meet in person. So that is a very significant investment, but it's a crucial piece of our support of beginning teachers. So meeting in person serves several important purposes for us. First, teacher learning. Our staff plan and implement professional development sessions for fellows that introduce fellows to important new ideas in the fields of math and science education and teacher leadership, support fellows in considering critically how these ideas make sense in their local contexts, and equip fellows to plan for implementing changes to their practice as teachers and leaders. The second purpose is cohort community building. So while our fellows do engage in robust work online, the intense time they spend with one another at meetings, at meals, and even socializing late into the night serve as crucial components of network building. And we explicitly and purposefully use meetings to build that community. We help fellows decide on their own cohort norms. We give fellows choices about how to use their cohort time together. We provide space for fellows to reflect on how the cohort is working together, even purposefully selecting roommates for the weekends to grow relationships. So these meetings really strengthen the close bonds between fellows, staff, and team specialists. The third purpose is building a sense of professionalism. While we strive to be careful stewards of Knowles resources, we also recognize that teachers deserve to be treated like professionals. To that end, we make sure that fellows are treated well. We eat good food together. We make sure our meeting sites are pleasant places to be and work together. And we recognize that teachers learn best when they have agency over their own learning. So our staff work very closely with fellows as they plan meetings, getting feedback and input about their needs, and supporting fellows to own significant portions of meetings as they support one another's work. The sense of community that we foster requires a consistent investment of fellows in one another and of our staff in fellows. Given that our fellows are spread across the country, this means that much of what of that investment occurs in a virtual space, our online community. And we call it Trellis to connote its ability to scaffold growth in teachers. Fellows engage with our online community in many ways, both asynchronously and synchronously, supported through the use of Google Hangouts, and do so for a number of reasons. We have fellows engage in inquiry, where they generate and analyze data and bring other fellows into that inquiry. The online community serves as a place to share and discuss artifacts and findings. We support fellows' efforts at trying new things. So as a fellow learns from their experiences in the fellowship, they're going to experiment with new ways of teaching and leading, and then share those experiences and the data they collect from their efforts throughout our online community. And our online community serves as a site for discussions across cohorts and building the network. Fellows engage in these rich discussions about pressing issues in school and math and science education, seek advice about dilemmas from one another, share victories, and seek comfort when things are tough. So within our online community, we have many smaller communities where fellows who might be 10 years apart and may have never actually met in person, but share a common interest can geek out on the latest developments in project-based learning or standards-based grading. And finally, our online community is a site for resources, for sharing resources, learning about new opportunities for professional development, or for new jobs in local schools. In essence, extending each fellow's network to one another in a multiplying way. I'll turn now to talk about eligibility, which I think will hit some of the questions that have been raised in the webinar. Prospective applicants must meet the following eligibility requirements. The fellowship seeks to support individuals who intend to make teaching their primary career. In order to be eligible for the fellowship, applicants must have recent knowledge of the content they intend to teach. Specifically, applicants must have earned a degree in physics, chemistry, biology, or mathematics, or have taken the coursework equivalent to a major in one of those subject areas between 2010 and September 1st, 2020. Additionally, applicants must have earned a secondary certification somewhere between January 1st, 2015 and September 1st, 2020, with the goal of teaching full-time in a high school science classroom or mathematics classroom no later than the fall of 2020. Last, the fellowship is intended to support teachers who are first or second year teachers during the first year of the fellowship. And for purposes of eligibility, we consider an applicant's first year of teaching to be the first year in which they teach full-time for the full academic year as the teacher of record. So a couple notes about this eligibility is that for the most part, people can probably look at these and determine whether or not they're eligible. But there are lots of situations where people have questions about whether their degree counts as having that work, whether or not their certification applies, whether or not a particular situation counts as their first year or their second year. And I just want to reassure people that these are questions we want to make sure you get answered before you apply. And so if you have any questions at all regarding eligibility, we would encourage you to send your inquiry to apply@knowlesteachers.org. I'll say this again in a little bit. We're not a large organization. Very likely that's going to be Rebecca or I answering that question. And we'll respond to you quickly. We'll make sure that we consider your personal situation and get you an answer so that you know whether or not to invest the time in this particular application. So I'm going to look again here at some of these open questions. So I'm looking at Molly. So Molly, yours is a good situation where we would want to know more. And so primarily like a CV would be something that you could send to apply@knowlesteachers.org. That sort of talks about what you've been doing since 2011. Looking at Jessica's question. Same, I think we'd want to talk more about or even have an informal look at your transcripts. That's another common thing that we do is review transcripts. So a question about whether public health fits into those categories. We would want to look and see how much biology did you have, how much chemistry, those kinds of things. And so again, we're happy to take a question like that at apply@knowlesteacher.org. And I actually think for Anthony, for Isaac, for Terrence, it's that same answer. So I think rather than trying to tackle that particular question here, please just shoot us an answer or shoot us an inquiry at apply@knowlesteachers.org, and we'll be able to ask and probe a little bit on any particular questions and give you a firm answer about whether or not you're eligible so you can know whether to apply.
Jeff, what would you also say about Annie's question asking if there are life science specialists? I know all of our specialists have different content areas, so would you say that there is one for that also?
Yes. So, I mean, our teachers, our veteran teachers are, they teach different disciplines, but in both phases, we do have a team specialist who is a biology teacher. And so the answer is yes. Each cohort would always have access to a team specialist who's a biology teacher. And our phase teams, our staff who work on phase teams, there's usually 4 or 5 staff members who are supporting each cohort. Again, on each of our teams, we have a spread of disciplines that people are we're teachers in and have content backgrounds in. So we have math and chemistry and physics and biology staff members as well, who are experienced teachers across all of those disciplines. So content is really important to us here. And so your support, while it is a cohort that has people from all different disciplines and is interdisciplinary in that way, we have made sure that the PD we provide and the support that you get is content specific and content intensive. One other question I do see that I wanted to address, it was answered about expenses to all the conferences and meetings. Those are all covered by Knowles. So that is part of us treating teachers as professionals. And so Knowles Fellows do not have any expenses to participate in the program, nor any expenses that are part of participating in the program. And that includes even the professional development that they might attend on a grant. All of travel, food, lodging, all of that is covered by our grants. I'm answering now Johanna Metzger asked a question about that the pamphlet says there are 50 hours of PD per year. And is that through us meeting in groups with a mentor or coach or conferences? So that's a good question. That comes actually through our cohort meetings. So we meet together as a group 3 times a year. So for 3 days in the summer and then 2 days in the fall, 2 days in the spring. Each of those are full days of professional development. And so that 50 hours of PD is counting just the time that we meet together in cohorts. It does not include the additional time of professional development that you might get through the online work that we do as well. And Michelle Lowe asked a question as well. It says, does Knowles support first and second year teachers in middle schools? What about a combined 6-12 schools? The Knowles Teaching Fellowship is exclusively for high school teachers. It is not for teachers who teach only middle school. If a teacher teaches in a building that's 6-12, as long as 50% of their day is spent teaching high school, then that counts for us, teaching students who are in 9th through 12th grade. But the program is designed for high school teachers only. And if we're being more precise, it's for teachers who teach high school students. So it isn't important what your building configuration is. It's important, are your students in 9th through 12th grade? Hopefully that answers that question as well. Let me turn now to the application process. To be considered for a 2020 Knowles Teaching Fellowship, applicants must submit an online application, participate in a phone interview, and participate in interview weekend. As part of the application process, applicants are required to write 3 essays and obtain 3 letters of recommendation describing how they meet each of the 3 criteria. Each essay should respond to the prompt and provide evidence of the applicant's potential to develop in each criterion. The essay should demonstrate their ability to be reflective and should be grounded in their personal experiences. And this will allow us to get to know the applicant as an individual and as a teacher. It's important for the applicant to be honest and to do justice to how they represent themselves by being selective and thorough rather than broad and superficial. We recommend that applicants avoid abstract statements or platitudes about teaching and education, jargon, reference to educational theories that are not connected to personal reflection. In other words, we really want to learn about the applicant and how they think about teaching. We encourage applicants to carefully choose 3 people that have particular insight into their potential to develop in one of each of the 3 areas. Applicants should carefully explain the criterion on which they're asking their references to write share this presentation with them, share our website, and ask their references to share their insights with us. We recommend that applicants make sure their references understand that we're not looking for 3 general letters of recommendation. Following a review of the written applications, semifinalists will be identified. Applicants who are selected as semifinalists will receive an email in mid-December to schedule a phone interview, and phone interviews begin in January. The phone interview may last about an hour, and it's designed to help us learn more about applicants with respect to our 3 criteria. We may ask about experiences applicants wrote about in their essays, or information contained in their transcripts or letters of recommendation. If an applicant is selected as a finalist, we will invite them to participate in Interview Weekend, which will take place in Philadelphia, March 6th and 7th of 2020. The weekend involves participation in a number of activities that will start on Friday at 5 p.m. and continue through Saturday night. Participation in all of the activities for this weekend is mandatory, and none of the activities can be rescheduled. So if an applicant cannot be available to travel to Philadelphia, again, at the expense of Knowles Teachers and Knowles Teacher Initiative, then they shouldn't submit an application. If an applicant is selected as a finalist but determines later that they can't attend Interview Weekend, then their application will be declined at that point. Upon submitting an application, applicants will be asked to confirm their availability for 3 mandatory events should they advance in the application process. So I'll discuss the exact dates and provide a brief overview shortly. It's very important to note that if an applicant knows in advance that they cannot attend any of the 3 events, they should not complete an application. The 3 mandatory events are Interview Weekend, Orientation, and Summer Conference. As previously discussed, Interview Weekend will take place March 6th and 7th, 2020 in Philadelphia. The second mandatory event is Orientation, and so all 2020 fellows will be invited to attend Orientation, which will be held May 8th and 9th, 2020 in Southern New Jersey. The third and final mandatory event is the 2020 Summer Conference, which will take place July 22nd through 25th, 2020 in Philadelphia. Each year, we evaluate fellowship applicants with regard to the following selection criteria. Successful fellowship applicants possess the potential to develop the content knowledge needed for teaching, exemplary teaching practices, and the qualities of a teacher leader. The next 3 slides will provide more information on each criterion. The first of our criteria is the potential to develop the content knowledge needed for teaching. Exemplary teachers are able to connect their knowledge of their discipline with the learning needs of their students. Content knowledge for teaching is both broad and deep, and it's organized specifically for the work of teaching. It includes having the ability to transform expert knowledge for novices, anticipate student difficulties, and build on their prior knowledge. Although knowledge of the current state of their discipline is crucial for teachers, the content knowledge needed for teaching depends more upon advanced knowledge of elementary concepts than elementary knowledge of advanced concepts. So we expect that fellows will have at least a bachelor's degree in a field connected to the subject they intended to teach. This does not necessarily mean that if an applicant intends to teach math, for example, they must have a degree in math. Some of our math fellows have degrees in engineering or other related fields, but it does mean that an applicant should have significant depth, breadth, and interconnectedness of knowledge from the coursework that they've taken. When assessing an applicant's potential in this area, we will look at an applicant's response to the essay that addresses the content knowledge needed for teaching, and their associated letter of recommendation. Additional potential indicators include, but are not limited to, grades in content courses, their essay that details how they think about their discipline, their teaching experience in that discipline, and awards, honors, internship, or other distinctive content-related experiences that they've had. The second criterion focuses on an applicant's potential to develop exemplary teaching practices. Outstanding teachers have mastery of a number of professional skills, such as the ability to communicate about teaching clearly, work as a team with diverse groups of people, plan, and be flexible. While an applicant's teaching or professional experiences may be limited, we are trying to determine the extent to which an applicant will be able to master some of the most important skills demanded of teachers. We look for indicators like an applicant's reason for choosing high school science or mathematics teaching as a profession, and any efforts they've made to understand the work of high school teachers. We also consider experiences the applicant has had working with adolescents or with teaching and what they've learned from those experiences. So when assessing exemplary teaching practices at the written stage, we assess the essay, their resume and CV, and the letters of recommendation specific to exemplary teaching practices. The third selection criteria is the potential to develop the qualities of a teacher leader. The Knowles Teacher Initiative is committed to the belief that teachers can and should be change agents in education. So Knowles seeks candidates who've developed their capacity for collaborative leadership in previous experiences and demonstrates the propensity to continue to develop as leaders in and from the classroom. Leadership is displayed in an applicant's manner of personal interactions and experiences. And so we're going to look for instances when an applicant may have behaved ethically and professionally in difficult situations, mobilized others in an effort to bring about change, held positions of responsibility or authority, and have demonstrated initiative. I do want to say a word more about letters of recommendation, just to give a sense and reiterate the idea that we're looking for letters that are specific to a particular criterion. And so applicants might want to think carefully about who they choose. Typically for a CKT essay, for the content knowledge essay, applicants choose someone who can speak to their content knowledge. So they might choose a college professor in their content area, a cooperating teacher, someone that they've done research with. When we think about exemplary teaching practices, applicants often there choose someone who has some knowledge of their teaching. So it might be, again, a cooperating teacher, a colleague if they're a first-year teacher, a methods professor in their teacher education program, a colleague at a camp where they worked with adolescents, someone like that. And then for qualities of a teacher leader is where we get the widest variety of people who can speak to teacher leadership. So this, again, might be any of those people we just described, but it could also be a boss from a pizza place that you work at each summer, or your ice skating coach, or something along those lines. So people who can speak to your potential as a leader for that particular letter of recommendation. So at this point, Rebecca, are there any other questions that have popped up and are floating around that I might have missed?
Skimming through the chat now, the only one I would say was to explain more about content knowledge for teaching, exemplary teaching practices, qualities of a teacher leader, but I think you're okay. If not, Annie, please poke into the chat again, and I'll prompt Jeff to ask some more things. And just to confirm, Emily, yes, everything is all mandatory meetings, everything is totally paid for, so you're good on that as well.
Okay. So to learn more about the application process or the fellowship, please visit our website at knowlesteachers.org/apply. If you have questions that were not addressed in this presentation or on our website, please, again, do not hesitate to email us at at knowlesteachers.org. And again, I just want to reiterate, we are a small family foundation. We want to make sure that this process is a good one for all the applicants who apply. And so please don't hesitate to use that apply at knowlesteachers.org. We'll be responsive and answer quite quickly. We do have a question that popped up in the last minute, so I will take that. I'm wondering if Knowles supports science teachers with NGSS in mind. The answer is absolutely we do. In years 1 and 2 of the fellowship, both NGSS and the Common Core are central to the work that that fellows do and in the ways that they're supported. I say that with a caveat, which is some of our fellows teach in states where NGSS have not been adopted, or even at Common Core have not been adopted. And so we support teachers with whatever curricular materials they have, but we certainly use as kind of the backbone of the work we do the standards from NGSS, Common Core, in particular using the idea of practices from both Common Core and NGSS as really central parts of the work that we do. And Maria's question, whether or not exemplary teaching practices, is that mostly about instruction, or does it include other teaching practice, for example, curricular design? For exemplary teaching practices, the things we're looking at around our particular evaluation are we're looking for commitment. We're looking for people who are highly reflective and learn from their experience. So the essay prompt, for example, is going to ask you to think about a time where you taught and have a chance to reflect on what you've learned. And also people who understand the complexity of teaching. And so curricular design certainly is part of what we work with teachers on, but it's not necessarily, we're not going to necessarily evaluate that in our process. Teachers, again, who are pre-service teachers or first-year teachers might not have had a lot of experience with curriculum design to this point. Okay, with that, thank you so much for your time and attention. We hope that this webinar has been useful to you. And again, please don't hesitate to reach out if you have any other questions at all. Thank you so much for attending.
Jeff, we had a late question from Cami. Do we do any other outreach work to encourage teachers to apply? I started typing and then I figured it might be useful if everyone would hear your thoughts, but I was going to start saying that we send emails, we advertise on our Facebook and Twitter, and if, Cami, there's something specific you're thinking of that maybe you know a whole bunch of pre-service teachers, we could do a presentation, have a personal webinar for you. Jeff, did you have any other thoughts on that?
Yeah, we visit schools of education all around the country and do presentations. And so perhaps, Cami, you actually maybe work in a teacher education program. And if you do, please reach out to us and we can talk about how we could even have someone to present at your school, meet with a number of teachers, do a private webinar as Rebecca suggested. So we're always looking to try to get the word out as widely as possible and to get a really interesting pool of people applying.
And once again, that email is apply@knowlesteachers.org. If you're still in the webinar, it should be on your screen. But otherwise, thank you very much. We hope to hear from you.